why don't a lot of us start this journey of healing? If we're like, yes, I want to be a peacemaker, I want to get healthy, but there's some kind of barrier a lot of times that prevents us from starting. I think one of the things is that we get too familiar in our pain. Like some of you have lived with the same hurt, the same pain, the same struggle, or some variation of it for so long, you almost are comfortable with it. It's like you don't know who you would be without it. To the point where you even start to believe, well, this is just it. There's no other option. There's no other way. I have to live with this thing. My freshman year of high school, I was on our basketball team. And don't act like you played basketball. We know it was your wife. We know it was your wife. But halfway through the season, I went to an eye doctor's appointment, just like a regularly scheduled eye doctor appointment. And they were like, oh, you need some intense glasses and contacts. Your vision's not good. And I had no idea. So they got me contacts. I show up to practice the next time with contacts in for the first time. And wouldn't you believe it, my shot got so much better. Like I was like, woo, little Miss Michael Jordan on the court, you know? And my coach looks at me and he's like, what happened? I was like, oh, I got contacts. I didn't even realize I needed them. And he just looked at me like I was the dumbest human on earth. Like, how did you not know your eyes were that bad? We could have used that earlier in the season. But here's the thing. It's because my eyes had gotten progressively worse over time. I didn't even realize the condition of the issue. It was just something I lived with, I thought was normal. And I needed somebody to say, hey, this isn't normal. There's an issue here, and I actually have a solution for you. And sometimes that pain or that struggle, that habit that's been a part of your life for so long, you almost have become blind to it, or you downplay it, or you excuse it away. You treat it like a house guest that's paying rent instead of what it is, an attack from the enemy on your life. And maybe you just need somebody today to tell you that there is another option. That freedom is available to you, that you can start this journey of healing, and that you don't have to settle for this issue in your life, but you can do something. Jesus wants you to find healing and wholeness. Sometimes we don't want to start this journey of healing because we are stuck in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, your priority is about nothing else but surviving. I mean, all your energy, all your focus is about getting through that demand at hand. I mean, it requires mental, it requires emotional, spiritual, even sometimes physical strength just to get by. You're trying to manage a life that has become unmanageable. And I want you to know, if you're there, you know this, but in survival mode, it really takes a toll on your human spirit. It really makes you feel like you are in a state of hopelessness. And what happens a lot of times when we're in this moment of survival mode is we get very nearsighted. We start to look to that closest thing we can see as the release of pressure, and we cling to that. And sometimes it's like, if I can just get to this, if I can just make this deadline, if I can just pay this bill, if I can just get to vacation in 8 months away, then I'll be okay. Whatever our current thing is that is causing us stress and chaos in our life, we pick a point just beyond it and we say, there, if I could only get there. But the problem is a lot of times you get there and maybe there is a temporary release, but if nothing else changes in your life, you realize that you just get thrown right back into survival mode. And you realize that fix that you thought was a fix wasn't really a fix at all. The problem is we got to change our eyesight. We got to go from nearsighted to seeing the bigger perspective and put our eyes on the Lord, because God doesn't want us to just live our life going from survival season to survival season, but He wants us to live different than that and to partake in this glorious kingdom of God each day, no matter the season or struggle we face. And so somewhere along the line, when you're in survival mode, you got to break the cycle. And a lot of times that means breaking out of isolation. that often we put ourselves in when we're in survival mode, and you find community. It means breaking out of this feeling of hopelessness and looking around and saying, God, show me where I can find help, where I need help. It means putting yourself around people who bring life. When you're in the midst of darkness and chaos, surround yourself with people who are a light of Jesus and a community that is hope-filled. This is why I love CR, because that's what this is. There's a reason it's every week of the year, because we know that sometimes when you're in that cycle, you just need that little bit of a life raft to pull you out. And the people are there ready to say, hey, we're here, we're going to surround you, we're going to help you. And I know when you're in this season, even just the idea of making progress seems overwhelming, because you are like, I am just trying to get through this moment. But push yourself to do something that will break the cycle so that you can start to see change happening. You can break out of survival mode. You can do it. I think one of the simplest reasons sometimes it's hard for us to just start anything is that it's just hard work. The journey is a journey. And I love quick fixes. Like, I love the saying, work smarter, not harder. Anyone else? Like, I love it. And I want it to be on my gravestone someday, because I love finding easy solutions that are cheap and efficient. And let's be real, we all do as a human race. That's why we spend billions of dollars on products in our world that claim to have quick fixes, right? Whatever it is, for beauty or health or fitness or even your home, your finances. We spend money on things that claim to fix things pain-free. And I want you to know that God can and sometimes does change things in a moment, right? He is a miraculous God. We're talking about the God who said, let there be light, and like that there was light. So God can and does, and there is nothing wrong with praying for an instant miraculous healing. You pray for healing over your trauma of your past or some hurt. Like, you pray for that, and you believe for it. But we also have to acknowledge that we see in God's character is that a lot of times that he will provide healing through a process, because God values the process. We learn perseverance in the process, and we need perseverance if we're going to run this race for him and finish strong. He knows we need that. We learn surrender in the process. We learn to trust him in the process. There is so much growth that he unfolds in your life through this process. Have you ever heard of the Chinese bamboo tree? It's an amazing plant. This blows my mind. But this tree starts as a nut that gets planted in the ground. And it must be watered very regularly, about every day, fertilized, or it will die. And you have to water this plant very consistently for a very long time. Years go by of this plant getting watered in the ground before anything happens. In fact, they say it's about 5 years of consistent watering of this plant before anything will break through the soil and come up. Now, that is a lot of work and a lot of patience. But when it does break through the ground, it says in about 6 weeks, it will grow nearly 90 feet tall. Pretty incredible. Imagine, though, the patience in this process. Like, I can barely keep a cactus alive in my house that needs very little water. This is an everyday watering. I mean, this is an excruciating process for 5 years to not see any progress with this tree. But what you don't see happening in those 5 years of watering is that something is happening below the soil. And that tree is developing a very deep and a very wide root system so that when it's ready to break through, the tree won't topple over. There is so much growth happening under the surface that you can't see with your eye. And it takes faith to keep watering even when you don't see progress. And that's what I know about God. Sometimes you don't see much happening right away, and it can be discouraging, but I want to encourage you that we just got to be faithful. We got to have an unwavering faith. We got to be consistent in the things of the Lord, watering ourselves spiritually day after day, reading his word and praying. And I want you to know that God is working on you when you are faithful in that consistency. You might not see the progress yet, but he is working in your life. It's a process. It's a process.